Here. Here. Here.
Here. Citizens appearance. Anybody here who wishes to speak on something that's not on the agenda or that is on the agenda that you probably won't allow much deliberation during the agenda on these issues. So, if there are comments people want to make, I would encourage you to do them now.
Did you want me to go first?
And then Ms. Goldstein, you
Good
can come up.
Hello, Mayor, Council. My name is Cindy Vezina. I own the property at 194 Depot, also known as Purple Martin. I recently purchased the acreage across the street, forested land. I'm here to talk about point number 2D, tree removal at North Shore Park. I'm opposed to removal, both the trees that have already been removed by city employees on taxpayer dollar, and also by whatever the plan is for new trees. The reason I'm opposed is I think we're going too quickly. I think that this restaurant's very important to the city. I want to support it. But I don't think once you remove mature trees like that, you can replace them. People travel for miles in Michigan to see large trees and forests. And if you need any proof, I brought a book. They don't have strip land. Here's an example from Costa Rica that says they don't cut down trees. So if we could just wait a little bit and see what the plan is, I think it would be best. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Rachel Goodstein. I'm a taxpayer and a citizen builder here. I own property in the city at 126 South First Street. I also own property out in the county. I came here at the end of July when this issue came up about tree cutting because I was concerned. There had been all the discussion of what happened at the Dover Conservation District with tree removal, and that situation is not. What was going to be done was limited, and now there's talk about that. Then as a result of that, my understanding was the city council passed something, if not an ordinance, a resolution stating that they were not going to cut trees in the parks unless they were created a safety issue or were unhealthy. And I came at the end of July, and I had taken some pictures actually after that, had been assured by city manager that what was going to be done was some sort of healthy thinning. And when I went into the pictures, I could see a little clump. It looked like there was some overcrowding, so I assumed that's what it was going to be. And lo and behold, that's not what this is about. This is about cutting mature trees in parkland. And I'm opposed to that generally, because part of what makes the parks pretty are trees. I'm a believer, I used to be a real estate broker in Chicago, that what you own is what you own. If it's somebody else's property, you don't have any dominion or concern with it unless they try to change it and you get notice for a change. You certainly don't have dominion over publicly held property. And that's what this is. This is public park. It's supposed to be enjoyed by everyone in the city, and given that it's within several hundred feet of the shoreline, I'm also concerned that there may be some issues with that property because it is adjacent to Lake Huron. And even if this were going to be allowed, which I don't think it should be allowed, there doesn't seem to be a process. My concern is, where does it end? I have Lakeview property that looks over Lakefront Park. If this is allowed, do I get to come down and say, there's this bush here that's obstructing my view? Do I get to come and have that done? Because I want a better view for my house, or I think I'll get more money when I sell it. And we march down the whole lakefront, and where people have property adjacent to any park, and someone says, gee, Westminster Park, I don't like those big trees, their leaves fall in my yard, because where does it end? So I'm opposed to it, and should the city think this is something they ought to start doing, then they need to have a complete process. How it gets done, what gets determined, what neighbors get to come in and talk about. Because it's a public asset, it's here not just for us. Those trees, some of those trees will be here long after I'm gone,
Thank you.
unless they're cut down.
Anybody else, public comment? See, this is a workshop issue that I don't think I'm really in favor of resolving tonight.
Thank you.
Period.
I agree.
But, go ahead.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just want to make a few comments. We are the ones that have purchased the old Water's Edge property downtown, restaurant lounge. Our goal is to give our customers the greatest dining experience we can give them. Obviously, the deck, all the windows in the restaurant lounge were built facing Lake Huron. Gorgeous view, beautiful view. Over the years, some of the trees have come up. They obstruct the view on the deck. They obstruct the view in the restaurant and the lounge. All we're asking is that a few of them could be eliminated. We feel that this is a community building, a community project. We want to give everybody what I think, what they want. Come down and sit, look at the beautiful lake, have a drink, have a dinner with your kids, your family, your wife. Enjoy the view, watch the freighters coming out of Telsite, watch the boats, fishing boats go. And quite honestly, right now, it's tough to watch all that. There's a lot of obstructions in front of the thing. We're not asking for you guys to come down and cut, clean more than 4 trees out, 5 trees. It's not like we're asking for semi-loads and come down there and wipe stuff off. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come in. You guys have been all amazing so far. Thank you for your
Can I
time.
ask you just a question? I think one of the requirements is that you replace those trees.
Yeah, I have no problem. If we cut 4 down, I can buy 4 more trees. We can plant them anywhere you want in the city, however you want to do it. I'm not opposed to anything.
Okay.
That's just kind of one of the
Just want the public to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, guys.
I too, right now, I'm wondering, in view of the comments just made by the gentleman, how many of you here have gone down and looked at the trees that have the yellow tag, which I've been told is supposed to be for removal? And the 5 that I saw today down there were all very, very healthy. Not all of them were all older trees. And I also surveyed the rest of the property and looked at it closely. And I think there could be a compromise, and I agree with the comment that was made that this should maybe be resolved in a workshop, because there were some trees there that if you look at them, could have used some very serious thing, dead. I think all of you probably have seen those if you've been down there at all. And there could be some compromise reached on the best way to do this. And the question was also raised by, I don't know, because I don't know the measurements or anything. The question was raised by someone that I know with the DNR in the EPA, that the trees that I saw that were in the front right there that were singled out, there's some question as to whether they are in maybe you've already gone into all of that, but whether they're in a place that back far enough from the shore of Lake Huron that they legally, or without having the EPA or forestry, natural resources out of the city. And I do agree also with the first comment about what you do when others. What about the people that are out on the shoreline that we all get pretty upset when they built across from the lake and they got a highway in front of them, and then they have these trees that they don't like, so either they arbitrarily remove them themselves, which has happened, and we don't want anything like that. But I do think where you draw the line is a question. So I really hope that you would take this to a workshop and maybe find, there could be, I think, some clearances, some of the deadwood that's down in there, trees that are, there are some that are extremely stressed out trees. And my botanist friend tells me the heavier the, all the pine cones at the top is a sign of trees in very serious distress, and there are quite a few of this. And maybe they could still be a way to make the view better than it is now and respect the wishes of the gentleman at the restaurant, and also preserve the healthy, good trees that are down there that right now are marked for destruction. And I hope that there's a little more very serious consideration, and thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? We do have comments, so we'll get to the agenda. Go from there. Approval of correction of the minutes from September 5th.
Make motion to.
Second.
Motion support, is there any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Adair?
Yes.
Bayless?
Yes.
McLean?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Silver?
Yes. City clerk, treasurer,
Just the bills tonight.
questions on the bills?
I'll make a motion that we authorize payment of the bills in the amount of $159,423.80.
Support?
I'll support.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bayless?
Yes.
McLean?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Adair?
Yes.
Silver?
Yes. The attorney doesn't have a report. City manager?
Just a few things, again, to note, there were 2 items in front of you when you arrived that weren't in the packet you received before the weekend. One was, I guess, what Croft Industrial would be referring to as the contract on the Sling-Load trailer, which is double-sided. And the second is the letter of support that I promised associated with the library, looking to get a feasibility study done associated with the Granville Center. The other things that I'll note, the redevelopment ready communities from the RRC program, we had to get to some training. You guys had to pass a resolution saying you become engaged, and we had to do that self-evaluation, which was all about the status of our master plan, zoning ordinance, and other documents. Toby and I finished that today. The deadline to get it in was October 1st. It was emailed to Dan Leonard as instructed. So we got smooth sailing with grants and things from MEDC, continuing moving forward. The auditor was in, was that last week? No, it was already 2 weeks ago. Recently, and I think things went well. Again, this was our first year sans a bookkeeper. So we had to get used to the things they'd be looking for, so we were scrambling a little bit trying to find some documents, but I think overall things went well, and I think you'll get a very positive report when they're up here soon.
We're watching you, Joe. You ever watching you?
Yeah, I know. The Third and Erie project, I'm sure anybody that's been paying attention now has seen some recent activity there. The 3-tier drinking fountains in, 3 trees were planted. I've noticed most of the flowers, grasses, bushes were put in today, which was a day ahead of schedule. The protective display case for the lens has been completed by Besser Company. Anticipating that'll be installed next week. The 2 gentlemen that restored the lens itself are currently wrapping up the restoration of the double emergency ship's wheel, and the lens has been restored. The engraving of those that contributed 500 or more on the wall is done, and the wall itself will be installed as soon as next week. The last thing that you'll see happen will be the lens itself and the ship's wheel, and once those are in, they'll actually be draped. There's a celebration / unveiling scheduled for October 7th, which would make it part of the Great Lakes Discovery Tour. It's posted on the website with all of the other events that are going on from Standish up to Mackinac City that day, as well as some other downtown events that the Chamber's coordinating. So that'll be 2 o'clock on Saturday, October 7th, and more information will be forthcoming. We're still lining up folks on the agenda and things of that nature. The street project, just as a reminder for those that live down in the area of Linwood or Linden and Pinewood, there's still cones out, there's still bumps, but again, the contractor was required to wait at least 2 and not more than 4 weeks between the base course and the finish course, because again, a lot of that has been installed over some fairly old, somewhat brittle water line, and the style of water pipe that we're talking about, it's not in need of replacement, but it breaks rather easily when you're compacting, and typically any water break will occur within the first week or so after the compacting's taken place. Better to fix it now with base course than to finish the road and then tear the road up again. So the folks that are down there, they can remain patient a little bit longer, the contractor will be back, job will be finished and good. And then just a couple comments again on the household hazardous waste. I believe the newspapers have already done some stories on this and provided the details, but I did want to again stress that that would not have happened without the partnership between the City of Rogers City and Rogers Township, because remember, you're paying so much to mobilize the company here that's collecting the waste, and for that mobilization cost, you get a certain amount of poundage. Rogers City alone, looking at the numbers, because they did have a sheet that indicated where everybody was from, would not have generated enough waste to merit the cost of that, but between the two of us, we did, and then some, and we came in right where the budget said we would be. So overall, I don't think it could have went better, and again, I just want to praise the township for stepping up and working with us on that to make it possible.
Joe, and I thank you for taking care of that job, and it's good foresight, and it's good that we, the council supported it.
Yeah, I think it was outstanding, and then next year, if we look at it, I'd like to think we could grow it and add a few more of our neighboring townships before the county's ready to pick it up on a county-wide basis.
And
So
maybe every couple of years we can budget for that.
Over 7,000 pounds were brought in for recycling, and not only that, we had individuals come from other townships that literally were paying, and it was 85 cents a pound, and they were bringing in waste and saying, we don't know where else to take this, and we're grateful to pay the 85 cents per pound to get rid of this stuff. So it's awesome.
Do you have any questions for Joe? We'll move on. Anything from commissions or liaisons? Mayor, don't you have anything? Sorry to answer for a month. Apparently things get crazy. Unfinished business, we have a second reading, adoption of ordinance 2017-04, which is related to signs. That in this case, the type of signs we're talking about are only permitted in the industrial districts, which there's one. Planning Commission has already had their process and approved the ordinance. We've done something last meeting,
Yeah,
and now we're up for a second reading, so I would ask for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there support?
Yes.
Motion support. Any discussion? This will amend the zoning ordinance to reflect the change in sign requirements.
Just for the public's knowledge,
There's, I'll read the narrative.
I was going to say there's going to be
The existing
color, but not the
The existing language prohibits off-premise advertising signs, billboards, from being more than 15 feet from the ground to the top of the sign. The new language allows them to be as high as 30 feet from the ground to the top of the sign. The existing language requires a distance of 2,000 feet between the signs, shortening that to 500, which could allow more billboards, but there are DOT restrictions on that as well. In the city, these signs are only permitted in Industrial 1 districts. The only property zoned as that is the frontage owned by Mr. Bennett right now, up across from the high school, who intends to remove and replace the existing billboards with 2 new ones, similar to what you've seen in the region. Been probably by Northbrook Wise, the one I can think of right now, off the top of my head. Which are higher, but are of better quality. And Bennett's going through the process. He's asked the planning commission to consider it, and they have. And we're at second reading and adoption tonight. And we did a motion support, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Not, roll call, please.
Masonic?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Adair?
Yes.
Bayless?
Yes.
Sobek?
Yes. New business, public hearing on the Carmoose Industrial Development District. We are at public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Ask if there's any comment on that. If not, I'll ask staff, did we get any written comment?
We did not. John Abbott's here from Carlos in case there are any questions about what they're doing.
Yeah, we get into it, maybe wise for John to get up and
Yeah,
explain what we're actually
absolutely.
doing.
I just came from practice, so, sorry. Yeah, so, I mean, really, quite frankly, Calcite's over 100 years old, and it's provided a lot of jobs in the area, and I think we've had a really good relationship with the community, both, you know, support from the community and our support for, you know, for the community. And hey, I think it's just, it's a good thing. We're gonna have a lot of rebuilding to do there. You know, the site's getting very old. We've started some pretty major projects, and I just see that continuing. So I think not only is it good, you know, to show that, you know, when I'm trying to sell these projects at the company level, you know, that, hey, the community supports us. It's always really helpful. I think it's a good thing all the way around for everybody, because it's just kind of going to bring long-term jobs to the area, which has been very important to this, you know, this city for a long time. So,
John, how much does the plant spend here, or Carmel spend here in Roger City?
in capital,
Yeah.
or well, just the one project we're doing this year is $12 million. So.
So you show a commitment to Roger City.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
And we have a lot, you know, it's a big plant, and we have a long way to go on a lot of these projects. But, you know, it's going to be like, you know, it's going to be one step at a time, and getting these approved and working through it. So, yeah, and then, you know, it's looking really good for us. You know, last year we shipped about 4.7 million. This year we're going to ship about 7.7 million tons. So things are looking good. Not only some of the markets, but, you know, we've made some adjustments in how we're doing things, and so a lot of positive things, and this would just be another one, you know, that be coming down the pipeline, so.
What's your how much you intend to spend here?
What's that?
Excuse me. How much do you intend spending at this point?
Well, I mean, that, you know, that depends. I mean, we have, you know, we have a lot of capital we put into this plant every year. You know, we have equipment that's coming up for replacement. You know, our focus in the next several years is going to be structural steel. You know, a lot of the areas are getting pretty old. We do a structural inspection every year by a professional engineer, and, you know, we've identified some areas that need some work. So, I mean, part of my job is going to be trying to pitch and sell these projects over the next several years, to try to get that investment here. But it's been growing very well with the company. Carmeuse has been a good, you know, so those who don't know, Carmeuse bought us in 2008, and they've been very committed to the long term. You know, they're a family-run business, and they're always looking at, they look more at generations than they do at, you know, next month or next, you know, this week, which is really good for the Roger, because they're putting the investment in the plant for, you know, for the long term. So
I just want to comment on the people that came here to work at the plant and to do the construction. Brought a lot of money to Roger City.
Yeah.
And that's been tremendous for that city.
yeah, and, you know, that's always a big process. But yeah, you know, we've used, you know, we've kind of combined these local contractors, and we brought in some contractors from out of the region as well. So yeah, it's, you know, everything's going pretty good, and I think this is just another good thing to, you know, to show that commitment from everybody that, you know, we're ready to go long term. So I'm here to answer any questions if anybody got any, but.
We've really noticed your commitment to the community ever since Camus made the purchase of the plant. It's a different feel, it's a different relationship. It's back to, I'm old, so it's back to the old days where you really are a part of the community, and we feel it and we appreciate it. So.
Yeah, we do too. I mean, I tell you what, it's a lot nicer to work for a company that does that. You know, it's you know, they're willing to chip in, you know, from time to time, and it's a nice thing. So we also, as employees, you know, appreciate that as well. So it's been good. So, and we thank everybody for their support.
One other note, the manager's report was already 7 pages long, so I didn't want to make it any longer than that. But if you recall, the abatement we're considering is part of a package that was offered to Carmeuse by the state of Michigan that included a grant and the opportunity to seek four abatements in 4 separate communities where they're doing business. And if any one of those cogs should, not come to fruition, it could jeopardize the entire funding package. I agree with everything that's been said, and I definitely support the action.
Maybe you would explain how that's going to work for the public.
Well, in essence, the state has not agreed to abate the state education tax, but they have agreed to make the schools whole. And what will happen is the anticipated real property, again, the spreadsheet shows $39 million of investment over 5 years, but of that, 1.1 million is investment in real taxable property. The abatement basically would mean we continue to draw off the existing taxable value of Carboose plus half of that 1.1 million for a period of 12 years, at which time you'll draw the full investment. So you're not out anything, you still gain, you just don't gain all of it immediately. It gives the company some relief as it invests all that money. Again, the school is made whole by the state, so they draw on the entire investment made by Carboose in addition to the existing value. And all of the others, the fire authority, the ambulance authority, the county, ourselves, draw on the half.
So it's a win-win, nobody loses.
I would agree.
Okay, any other comment? Not, I'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve.
I'll make that.
Second.
Motion support, is there further discussion? Approving industrial facilities tax exemption. Roll call, please.
Noah?
Yeah.
Adair?
Yes.
Bayless?
Yes.
McLennan?
Yes.
Philip?
Yes. Assessor selection, we had introduced last night between the 2 lowest bidders on the assessor, and you need to banter about, if there's a flavor that the council has, I'd entertain a motion in that direction.
I'd like to make a motion. I listened to this last night with all of us, and I think that I have to support this Joseph Lemon. Sheboygan, 20 years experience as not only an assessor but a director. And with the approval of the city manager, probably the city attorney, and a contingency, hopefully we can have that taken care of by first meeting in October, which is October 3rd.
Yep. And I would note that actually the contract would be, remember, it would be with Up North Assessing.
Yes.
He wanted to make sure we pointed that out, led by Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, he said 23 years as an assessor. He was the Sheboygan County Equalization Director for more than 12. A couple of years as the Sheboygan full-time city assessor. Now he's got a multitude of townships that he and his company handle.
Very good interview.
And his price was the lowest price of the 4 that we received proposals from.
I'll support that motion.
Just a little discussion, I don't know if we may have to make a friendly motion, but I would hope that we get maybe 10% of the city done each year for the next 5 years or whatever. How many years have been off this contract? 5?
The proposal was for 1. Remember, we basically threw our existing contract out there and said, what would you propose to fulfill the terms that are in this contract? So I don't think it's fair to hold them to the price. Go with the
I'm not
1.
talking about, you can put an escalator in there.
Well,
I think we should do a 1-year contract.
let's start with the 1 and we can go from there.
Negotiate beyond there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the proposal was. I hate to change the rules of the game now.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
Well, you can talk to him.
Yeah. Well,
You're negotiating a contract, see if he wants a 5-year. I'd rather see a 3-year contract. Well, Tom, that's my
I
viewpoint, okay?
understand, but we put out a contract under
I
certain.
didn't say that, though. I said that Joe can always talk and see if he wants a 3-year contract.
We could
You
wait a
can change
year and
things.
see if we like them too.
Well,
That'd be more important.
More to it than just jump
What's there to it?
Well, we, in good faith, put out an RFP to 2 people that was under certain parameters.
I understand.
We should engage that contract under those parameters, rather than change them when we pick who we want.
Well, there's nothing in there how many he's gonna do, and we're changing that.
I would say we would change.
Well, we should, he's gotta do something as far as the reassessment.
Well, I think the motion is going to be, from what I'm hearing from Ken, to instruct Mike and I to come up with a contract for
That's right.
council to review and consider at the next meeting
Right.
with that particular company. So give Mike and I some time with it.
Right. Okay, very good. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Adair?
Yes.
Bayless?
Yes.
McLennan? Lennon?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes. Here we are. Trees.
I'll make a motion that,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we allow it, that they work with the city manager, the city manager decide where those trees are going to go and that they, as many as they take out, they replace.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Discussion.
Can I make two, I promise
I
that?
want to go first.
Okay.
Sorry. If there's one thing I've learned in the last 6 months, you don't cut trees and you don't close parks without discussion. We've had very little open public discussion on this, and Jesse, I apologize, but in my opinion, you have to wait for those trees to come down. It's just that simple. We have an obligation to you to do the best we can to help your business, but we also have an obligation to the people who use that bike trail to make sure they're comfortable. Just like you don't want your business clients looking at those trees, I'm not sure everybody who uses that bike trail wants to look at your deck. We have to balance that. It's that simple. Doing it in one meeting like this does one thing, sets a precedent that I could never accept. There has to be a process, Mrs. Goodstein, you're correct. There has to be a process for people who come to the city and ask for consideration of the request that you're asking for. That can't be, hey, I want to cut a tree, and we say yes or no. There's got to be more to it than that. We have parks that are assets to people, and we have to manage it that way. We have to take care of those parks like they are what they are. They're an asset. And to just cut it at one request, I get it, I truly do. I disagree with your viewpoint on your view, because I think trees enhance views. I don't think they take away from views. So, in my mind, to pass that request, carte blanche like this, is setting a precedent that we would never be able to walk back from in a very efficient fashion.
Well,
It's
Mr.
just
Mayor,
bad precedent.
You were in the last 2 meetings, we talked about it.
I know, but
You know,
we
so
didn't
don't say we
workshop.
haven't talked about it. Workshop, what do you need a workshop for? Either you're gonna do it or you're not gonna do it.
Okay.
We've talked about it, we've talked about it, we've talked about it. So, what are we gonna wait till next summer or something?
We have to put work in it, you know what?
Well, I'll
You
tell
were
you,
begging me the last
okay.
time I was here.
That's enough.
I'm sorry,
That's
I'm
enough.
sorry.
Cindy, you were the one that said, no trees cut down. You told us you want tree cut across from your property. You said that.
That's enough. I know,
But they didn't
I know what you're trying to say, and I don't disagree with you, but this isn't the forum to do that. It's just not. Period.
For me, I think, you know, that the tree thing has been such an emotional issue across the community for at least the past year now. It's been something that there's passion on both sides of the issue. With this particular issue, there is also a business that has to, you know, we're promoting businesses, we want businesses to do well, but we also want to balance that with what the community is looking for. We want to keep as many people happy as we possibly can. For myself, I think that carving out just a bit more time to air this out in terms of a workshop would make sense. For myself, I feel that a duty to the citizens of the community to make sure that we're doing it legally, we're following a process, and that, as the mayor has just said, that we are not setting a precedent that we can't live with in the future. It's as clear as that for me, and I feel strongly about that. I think let's back up just a bit and do it right. I think that's better way to do it.
Again, I promised I have pretty strong opinions, and I promised that I'd let you guys deliberate and keep them to myself. But I do want to point out, for the sake of the media, because the resolution was mentioned, and whatever was in anybody's mind when they adopted that resolution was specific to Trout River and Seagull Point, which are both wooded parks, And it was basically saying, we're not gonna timber a wooded park for profit. It was specific, and those two are specifically mentioned. The other issue about how far those are from the lake, we've looked into that it's completely up to council and the city. There is no other state or other entity that we need to check with before we make a decision on those. And I wanted to make those 2 points clear based on some of the discussion I heard from the audience. I guess I'll leave my comment at that.
I was down the other day there, and there were some trees that should come down, they're terrible. What's that?
Just listen.
And there's some look nice, and like you said, we plant some new ones down there for us. And it improved out in the Trout River, where some of these trees were taken down, the little ones, they've come up within a couple years, they look great. They got, not thinned out or cut out, but you got a bad tree, you're holding good trees from coming up. That's part of nature. No trees falling down on you, falling on the,
Makes sense that everything's due process
oh, I agree with you.
to remove those trees.
Yeah, oh yeah,
I really do. We can't just accept requests from
right.
people and say, okay, we'll make that decision.
No.
I think that we need more people involved, and there's this group of people,
Right.
and Parks and Rec needs to be involved. I think there should be a comment period. I really do.
What's wrong with you?
Well, that must be wrong with
How
me
many
too. I think there
how
should be
many
a
people are
process.
involved in it? What the heck would happen if somebody wanted to take a bunch of trees down the city and everybody said, no, don't do it, because they wanted to build something? Do you think our forefathers would have built anything here, we just didn't cut any trees down? Talking about parks.
We're talking about parks,
What is that park? What is the name of that park? The bike trail is part of it?
North Shore Park.
I did want to know, just for the sake of, for whatever it's worth, just so we were all on the same page here, I did do a little bit of checking. Notice there's probably other companies, but it was a quick phone call, because we're 4 to 5 foot coniferous tree that's native to that environment, $75, an 8 footer would be $240, and an 8 foot red maple, which would be native to that environment, would be $135. Just as for the sake of that. So we know what we're talking about here.
I'm not saying that I'm against cutting them. I'm saying I'm against cutting them in this process, period. I just can't vote for a process that doesn't involve more input from people. There are users of that bike trail, and they have a right to be just as much as your customers do. We unfortunately are tasked with balancing those two opposing interests, and I don't think we can do that I think it merits more discussion and review from more than just us up here as a body. That's my 2 cents. So we got a motion and support on, we beat each other up. I would ask for a roll call, please.
Bayless?
Yes.
McLennan?
No.
Dare?
No,
Noah?
Yes.
Solbek?
What are we doing here?
I would make a motion that we refer this to Parks and Rec and put it on their next agenda. We move as fast as we can with it, but allow people to have a conversation. And the other part of that motion is that we direct Parks and Rec. No, I'll do that as a separate motion. I'll do that as because it would be money. My motion is that we refer it to Parks and Rec for recommendation.
also,
Discussion? Roll call?
Pretty good discussion on that, which is
Adair?
yes.
Bayless?
No.
McLennan?
Yes.
Noah?
No.
Solbek?
Yes. Okay. That's correct.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just one moment. Yes, the other part that I'll wait because it's not immediate, but I would like us to have a park plan so that we know what's going on in the community, so that anytime somebody comes forward, there's a process that we follow. And that's my concern, is that I don't want to see a set of precedent that we can't live with. But I'm a strong supporter of business as well. So I want this to be vetted, but I want it to be done quickly and then move forward.
Okay, marina towing equipment. Bill, you want to?
Yeah, I've got Wayne here.
Guidance here on costs.
Yeah, so we applied for the grant for $120,000 total between two grant agencies, DNR Waterways and USDA Rural Development. That's $60,000 from each one of them. $80,000 of that is associated with the sling lift trailer itself. The remaining $40,000 is for a towing mechanism. We looked through what options were out there and identified roughly 20,000 pound class, either telehandler or wheel loader. Got requests for proposals out to all of those companies that we knew handled trade-in or used equipment. We got 6 proposals from 3 companies. One of them was within budget, the other 5 were not. 4 of them were right around the neighborhood of $60,000, which was $20,000 over budget. And of those things that were quoted, only 2 of them truly would meet our needs and what we were looking for. Wayne went down to look at both of those. One of them was in fertilizer for its entire useful life and was deteriorated to the point where you don't want it for anything, much less trying to convince expensive boaters that we're going to hook that up to their, and put their boat's life in its hands. The other one was nicer, but again, is significantly over budget. Harbor Advisory did meet, discuss it, they took no action. Their thought was perhaps Wayne could work to get a better price on that unit, or we keep looking for something that was perhaps a bit less expensive. The trailer itself won't be here till the tail end of winter, so they didn't see any real urgency in rushing to get the towing equipment here. And oh, by the way, if it isn't here by the time the towing equipment is here, you can still use the city's existing loader to pull it. The reason I asked Wayne to be here, he can answer questions about the unit that was being considered and explain why it is, again, that we're looking at what we're looking at. The bottom line on why we're looking for a loader or a telehandler is we'd really like to be facing the trailer and facing the boat when we're pulling it out versus being turned away from it. These are people's, they're expensive, but they're also treated like people's family, and all we gotta do is ding one and that word will get out and we'll be pretty well in the business.
Excuse me, Bill, what kind of shape was that, the one that was over budget?
The one that was over budget?
Yeah.
It was, the 2 units are the same unit. The one that was over budget by 20,000 was considerably better. It was a much better unit. Better looking, it comes with a certification to it. The lesser expensive one, like Bill said, was in fertilizer its entire life. It was considerably rusty. There's a whole other problem with working in that type of environment. But it also did not come ASI certified, meaning just a classification that they check it out and make sure that it's all good to go.
And really, what I need, we can keep looking, but I think we need to provide Wayne with some direction as to what the number is. If we want to stay within the 40,000 where the grant is, he needs to know that. Again, when we put in the grant application, Roger had identified one that existed at the time that was $29,900 that looked pretty good. That one, of course, is long gone, and at present, there's nothing like that available to us. We actually inflated the $29,900 up to $40,000 to try to be safe, and it turns out at this time that we're not safe. We did budget $40,000 in general fund to make the purchase with the understanding that the marina would pay the general fund back over time, because at the time we adopted the budget, we didn't have the second grant yet, but we wanted to make sure we at least got the trailer, which was $80,000. So there is money available. The question becomes again, how much would you be willing to put up, knowing again we do have a loader. It's larger than the one we would pick out ideally if we were able to get what we wanted, but it will work.
How is the equipment fund?
I mean, the equipment fund is fine. I mean,
Well, what I'm getting at, is there funding maybe take out of there and put into the...
no, it would be general fund, Gary. It would, in essence, it would be general fund, just like the 40 would have been had we had to make the decision to buy the trailer with half of our money.
Yeah.
It's really fortunate that we have some time, that we have about 5 months, because I think that, and Wayne, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but we had one that was about 29, and now we have one that's, a little over 40, and they were about the same thing, so it might be the time of year. In other words, everybody's busy as all get out right now, trying to get things closed up before winter. We may see a good price come November, December.
That's very possible. This was just
Yeah.
when Joe put the bids out, that's what they came back with. I will let you know, 40 grand is a little light for the piece of equipment that we're looking for, something that, is a nice machine, has certification to it, but they're out there, and there is time.
I think due to the variety of uses that it might be able to provide, I'd be willing to entertain something more like 48 or so, which would put it in, wouldn't that, we looked at some that were pretty decent for, we consider that as.
With time and looking,
Yeah.
I would think the 50 grand mark, you could probably find something.
Don't push it, I said 48.
Well, if you come out a good piece of equipment, it's well worth it.
And the other thing, and it may even be in the form of a motion, that if he can find one, and they call him and say, get down and look at this, a lot of those that are, priced to sell may move really quickly. It might be a situation where we don't have time to push it through harbor advisory and get it back to council because, oh, by the way, it just sold the day after Wayne got a call.
The telehandler is that type of equipment too. It does move, a good unit does move rather fast. They're hard to come by when they're in good shape, and when they are, they usually move pretty quick.
I'll make a motion going up to 50,000.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, 48.5. The motion and support. Is there any other discussion? Not, roll call, please.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Adair?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
McLennan?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes. So the trailer contract.
Yeah, you've already approved the purchase of the trailer once, however, we've issued a purchase order on it already. Crop Industrial was the company that provided the low proposal, which was the trailer that Wayne and Dick Lappin went and looked at in Chicago. They're referring to this as a contract because it says contract. The charter indicates that it has to be approved by you. I'm looking for authorization to sign. $78,345, of which we've got to get $23,503.50 down. This is 100% covered by grant, and if Wayne does find one that's 50 grand, what you'll end up with is $130,000 worth of equipment for $10,000.
I'll make a motion that we authorize and sign that contract.
Support that.
The motion support. Further discussion? Not, roll call, please.
Davis?
Yes.
McLennan?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Adair?
Yes.
Sobek?
Yes. Next on the agenda, we have a letter of support for the Crestfield District Library. And this is in their endeavor to secure the Granville Center, is that?
To have a feasibility study conducted that would basically indicate what the cost would be to be able to convert that space into the district library headquarters. I think I give you guys the little map that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion, roll call.
Just a quick discussion. Amber is here, a librarian, and she's done a terrific job. She came to Rogers City and it's hit the ground running, and I'm telling you, we've been, admittedly stalled out on the Granville Center. We've been trying, we've been looking, we've been working, but, and we don't know if this is going to come to fruition, but it's something that Amber is spearheading, and I give you a lot of credit, and thank you for doing that.
Okay, we have motion support, right? Should we vote yet?
No.
Roll call.
McLennan?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Adair?
Yes.
Bayless?
Yes.
Sobek?
Yes. Pension plan workshop, what do you want to do, Joe?
Looking to have that scheduled, Tom. We need to start working on a plan to address that, and I would ask that we set the workshop for 6 o'clock in front of the next council meeting.
Okay.
It should be,
Dead enough time,
that's October, what's that?
Dead enough time.
I believe so, yeah. I mean, we're not going to solve it all that night, but it'll be a good start.
Okay. October what?
Third, I think.
Third, yeah. 6 o'clock on October 3rd, is there Okay, we need a motion, or I can just set it?
I think you could set a time.
6 o'clock, October 3rd. Workshop to discuss pension plan issues. Okay. Next item on the agenda is yearbook ad. We traditionally approve that. I think there was a quote, is there a quote in here? Yeah. Quarter page, $100. That circle form?
That's what we purchased last.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we take the quarter page from the front
I'll support. The motion support, take a quarter page, $100 ad in the yearbook this year. Discussion, if not, roll call please.
Ed Ayers?
Yes.
Bayless?
Yeah.
Martin?
Yes.
Millar?
Yes.
Covilla?
Yes. Any other,
Yes, I have one statement to make. It's a police officer thing. Police officer, this is Brad. I just want to thank the American Legion for offering our officers, I don't know if the sheriff's department also invited to the pizza party. A great effort by the American Legion, they do a good job. And they gave the officers pizza and pop, and did you go to that?
I had to shoot that.
Oh, yeah, shoot. But anyway, it was a great effort, I mean, a great thing that they did for you people, you deserve it. Thank you. Do you have any comment about that, or? You weren't there.
okay, anybody else? Not?